Hey guys, this is Miss Freeman, and I am coming at you today teaching you about a strategy that I like to use with my kids every year that helps them a little bit more in their problem-solving endeavors. I know problem-solving can be kind of tricky sometimes with bigger problems, especially when we get into 4th grade where we're having to do 2- and 3-step problems. So I want to introduce to you the MOLE strategy, and it's not any kind of special name that I made up for any special reason, but I saw it somewhere and I liked it because it really helped me kind of organize my thinking. And so I've used it a couple of years now, and it's really helped all of us kind of train our brains so that we can take more time in solving problems. So let's get started. I wanted to first go through each letter and what it really means. So MOLE, M-O-L-E, stands for mark, organize, label, and explain. And before you start thinking, oh gosh, that's a whole lot of stuff to do, once you become a really good disciplined mathematician, you do this anyways. Your brain is trained to do it. So this is the process in 4th grade that we start doing that. So first, when you mark a problem, you're not just circling different things or drawing lines under just anything. A lot of times I see kids, they'll just draw lines under everything. But the biggest thing that we want to do before we even start marking is read the problem. Read the problem. And I always tell my kids, you never want to read a problem just once. You want to read it at least 3 times. I know in other classes, I've heard them say the first one is the cold read, and then you do hot reads. A cold read just kind of gets you through a hard problem, so you can kind of get that whole overwhelmed thought out of your head. And then once you go back through it, you can start chunking it up and piecing it by piece. So also, when we mark a problem, we want to underline important info. And when we underline important information, that helps us kind of get in our mind what the question is telling us. And also, we want to circle what the question is asking. That way we know how to answer it. I know in grades before, you guys have been taught to say, restate the question at the end, just so that you know what the question's asking. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. Just circle what the question's asking, and I'm going to show you that in a second. When we organize the problem, that's when we start pulling out the important information. So you want to pull out important stuff. And that's when we start saying, well, what numbers are important and what numbers am I going to have to start using? And then, not stiff stuff, sorry. And then when we start organizing it, we want to start setting up our problems. Some kids, really awesome math problem solvers. This is the time when they begin to say, okay, well, what information goes with what? And then what steps do I need to take? Because, of course, we have steps 1, 2, 3, however many steps it takes to get to this answer that you circled up at the top. The next step would be to label. And that just doesn't mean like she wanted 5 oranges. No, that's not what I mean when I say label. You're not just labeling answers, but a lot of time in problems, to help keep ourselves organized, we want to label stuff. So you always want to ask yourself, what do these numbers represent? And then we're always labeling because we want to be able to say, what is the answer telling me? Okay, and then that way I know whether or not I'm answering the question that was asked at the beginning, is because it's telling, I'm finding out what is this answer telling me. For example, if I'm at the end of a long division that I just had to do, a long division problem that was part of the main problem, is that answer telling me what I have circled up here, or do I have to do another step to get the answer that it's wanting me to know? And then the very last step is to explain. And I don't mean write a paragraph. I mean, how do you know it's correct? And how do you know it's correct? Always by checking your work. And if you follow these steps and begin to train your brain to do these things, you're going to be able to start answering questions a lot better. And I've seen this happen every year with kids who just kind of flew through problems and they didn't do so well in the beginning, but they started using these steps. And so I've started creating these sheets, which is in the next thing that you guys are going to do to help them with that. And if you notice, the mole is on the side. And another thing that you should notice is that the OLE in mole, the organize, label, and explain are all together. Why? Because our brains do that at the same time. We should take the most time marking our problems and really paying attention to what we need to know. And if we understand it, and if not, we need to read it again. What do? Read it again. And then once we're solving, that's where the organizing, the labeling, and explaining happens. So I'm going to do the first one just as an example of how we use the mole strategy, and then I'm going to let you guys go. So Carmen uses 8 to 12 beads for each necklace she makes. What's a reasonable number of beads she will use to make 9 necklaces? Now that's a mouthful in itself, and I didn't really get it the first time. So that was what we call a cold read. So I'm going to go back through and begin to mark my problem. So Carmen uses 8 to 12 beads. I think that's pretty important. For each necklace she makes. What is a reasonable number of beads? Reasonable number of beads that she will use to make 9 necklaces. I underlined it, and then I'm going to go back and see what the real question is. What's a reasonable number of beads that she will use to make 9 necklaces? And sorry, I used a marker, so it's kind of fat, but what's a reasonable number of beads that she will use to make 9 necklaces? So now I've looked through the problem. I've found that my question is what's a reasonable number of beads that she'll use to make 9 necklaces. So now I'm going through the OLE part of my problem solving strategy. First, I'm going to organize and begin to label as I organize. So, all right, so it says she uses 8 to 12 beads per necklace. So she could use 8 beads equals 1 necklace, or 12 beads equals 1 necklace, okay? Or anywhere in between. So this is going to be the lowest number of beads she's going to use, and this is going to be the highest number. You see how I'm labeling things just to kind of help me think my way through this? And I'm organizing the information that was all jumbled up here that's really confusing. It helps me to kind of chunk up that problem too when it's hard. And then it says she's making 9 necklaces. So for each necklace, if it's going to take 8 beads, the least amount of beads that I can use would be 8 9 times, correct? So let me set that up. 9 times 8 would get me the lowest amount. And I'm going to organize this a little bit better. And then the highest amount would be 12 times 9, right? Because she's using 12 beads to make 9 necklaces. So the lowest amount that she could use would be 72 beads, because 9 times 8 is 72. And then 12 times 9 is 108. beads. So she could either use somewhere between 72 beads or 108 beads. And that's where I've gotten my answer. And in this case, when I have multiple choice, I can explain my answer by seeing some of the answers up here in my problem, and also kind of going through and making sure I read my problem again and checked it. So let's see. 29 is way too low, so that can't be it. 92 is between 72 and 108, so that could be it. So let me check my other answers. 116 and 180, those are both too high. So the correct answer would be 92, because it's somewhere between 72 and 108 beads. Okay, so that's one way that I use the mole strategy just to solve my problems. It does not magically find my answer for me, but what it does is it slows me down and it helps me kind of see exactly what I'm looking at and what I should do. And it just kind of helps organize my brain. And if you got a brain like mine, you need a little help organizing. So hopefully this video helped you. Watch it as many times as you need. And I think later during the week, I'll record myself doing the rest of these problems, just in case you have some trouble with it. But remember to make a copy and type in your own answers on your own copy before you submit it. All right, guys, I miss you very much, and I hope this video helped. I'll talk to you soon.